Hey guys, welcome back to the second match of tonight's HGC ANZ Premier League, and we've got Crimson versus Mindfreak. This is position 1 versus position 2. This is the second time they've met each other in this league game. You know, the first time they met, Mindfreak, Crimson showed a really good, had a really good showing, but Mindfreak still demolished them in the end. Can it change now? You know, the points are locked in, and both these teams going to Latin America. So for them, this could potentially be a almost a preview to their game overseas. You know, is this going to be? You know, are we going to what we see today? Is that what's going to happen in Latin America, or is this just going to be a warm up? You know, it's really. What I'm trying to get at, Jill, is I'm excited to see where these teams have come this season. You know, how far both of them have grown.
Yeah, both of these teams have had rather decent seasons. Well, I say rather decent, considering Mindfreak is still undefeated, hasn't dropped a single map. If they managed to 2-0 here, they would have run the entire double round robin without dropping a single map, which would be very impressive on their part. But Crimson, they've had a few hiccups here and there, but they've still maintained control of that second place position with essentially authority. But coming into this series, it's a little bit weird because yes, it is one of those series where there's not really anything up for grabs here. Positions don't change, nothing really changes regardless of the result. But as you mentioned, this is a potential precursor to what we see over in Rio. But that also brings up the idea: what do you show and what do you try and hold back in potential, like for potential ammo later on?
Yeah, you know, like, do you not that any teams I think are going to troll this game, but do you downplay it a little bit? Do you play a little bit?
Do you just like try and play a little bit more standard, or try and just play like middle of the road? Don't show anything that you might have prepared specifically for them once we get to the more important games. Once they head over to Rio.
But, well, GL, what a great segue, because speaking of prepared, both teams are ready to enter their first game, and we are playing on Tomb of the Spider Queen. The Spider Queen.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. I mean, I'm interested to see whether or not these teams go in all guns blazing, trying to just go as full serious mode as possible, but I really don't know what to expect here, because of what's at stake later on.
Yeah, there's so much going through. You know, it's like if we talked about standard drafting right now against Mindfreak, you know, you'd almost be looking at, well, we know that they play an amazing Medivh. We've seen them weeks. We've seen them so effective on that. So do we drop that? We know their Sonya plays good. We know their
Maiev is good. They're pretty much good at all the top meta things that we've got going on. And actually, on the other side, for Crimson, well, actually, to be honest, for Mindfreak, I wouldn't be surprised if they ban away the Garrosh, if it's not already banned by Crimson, because we've seen in the past KVA's Garrosh can do immense amount of work.
All right, so Tracer actually being removed. So again, so either we're going to hide all our now bans against you, or they're looking at, well, why are we going to take on our back line that Tracer could really dive against and punish? It also kind of looks at, well, what healer or support might they be taking that can't save them in that situation. Stukov does have the ability to sort of burst heal, but he has no way to effectively, you know, cancel out massive amounts of damage on someone. It also goes, maybe everyone on the side of Crimson are going to be in that shape. You know, they don't have any cancellation ability like an ice block or a stasis effect or something of that description. So banning out the Tracer.
And there's also the thing of, if we ban out something that, yes, is strong, but not necessarily top meta, we're leaving more things open. So you're bound to get one of those top tier picks. Now, with the Genji ban, that's leaving quite a few of those up. Things like the Maiev, the Garrosh, the Malfurion, the Stukov, the whatever you want, the Medivh. There's so many options still on the table. Even a Gul'dan wouldn't be too amiss at this point. Phoenix, possible, but I think very high up in the draft. I think it's very punishable, as we saw in the previous series.
It can be, and that gets the scary thing for Crimson right now. They've kind of tried to call Mindfreak's bluff here. You know, if they do grab the Garrosh, Mindfreak's going, well, we can have two super meta picks. I mean, regardless of what Crimson do right now, Mindfreak get 2 high period picks if they're looking for it. Maiev, normally a first ban hero, picked up first for side of Crimson. Mindfreak, you know what? They could just get Medivh here and just be done. But call it, Medivh. Goodbye any big plays by Maiev and whatever your follow-up game is.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the Maiev is one of those very big power picks, especially on the side of Mindfreak. Pat94 pulls out an incredible Maiev and does an immense amount of work, and just the hero in general just allows so much setup. Just the amount of control that she has with her kit makes it it's very easy to follow up on a lot of that control. But on the other side, for Mindfreak, they are going to be starting off with the Malfurion, so they do pick up that top tier support. Interesting that they don't go for the Stukov, which does leave the potential for the Maiev-Stukov combination. The Johanna as well does reasonably well into the Maiev because she does have the Iron Skin, can just walk out of a lot of what that Maiev wants to do, and also has the Wave Clear, which is quite prioritized on this map. Yeah,
the Johanna is sort of a really decent pickup in that regards. I'm sort of on the same breath with the Stukov, but I mean, Malfurion still is a great hero, and again, he sets up...
We saw it in the previous series, just how much power he has, the amount of sustain he brings, the amount of control he brings. It is still pretty damn good to pick up.
Sorry, chat there, just someone pretending to spoiler the end of Infinity Wars. It's like, don't do it, chat, don't do it. I haven't seen the movie yet.
I'm going to say that tomorrow.
We're all super excited for it, but you know what I'm more super excited for is how this game works out right now.
Good segue.
Like the Maiev, I mean, Crimson are really open to sort of any options right now. Look at what you want to do against Malfurion. You want something that can gate to that back line. That's the Maiev roll to the Phoenix into the Stukov. Okay, I see it.
Yes, it does leave options in the for the bans on the side of Mindfreak. Just take away one of those front liners because you know that's essentially where they're going to look towards next, either their front liner or their soul laner, because you've got their damage dealers to take care of, and that's the thing. They take away the garage. They know that it's a very strong power pick on the side of Crimson. KVA does an immense amount of work on it, as I mentioned, and they're not necessarily wanting to pick up another frontline tank on the side of Mindfreak. They've already got the Johanna, so they're not necessarily in the business or they're not looking for more main tanks. So that's a rather straightforward ban there for Mindfreak.
I actually think it's quite a painful ban as well. You know, they do have to look at alternatives. Do we pick up ETC? Oh, wait, Mindfreak, you've got Johanna. So we don't really want to do that. So who's next on our roster? Oh,
there's Murden. KVA does play a rather decent Murden, or even a Nubarak could pop in here and there.
I would like a Nubarak pick over Murden. I think Murden, while he is a good all-rounder, that's his problem. He's a good all-round hero. And you just can't take a good hero against Mindfreak. You need to take a great hero against Mindfreak, and sort of the double CC effect from a Nubarak, potentially web wrap as well to remove someone from a fight. I think those are the kind of key tools you need against Mindfreak.
Oh.
You're KGL. Don't die on me, mate. Don't do it. We're the game hasn't started yet. Obviously,
that Junkrat ban really took it out of me.
Was very surprised. There are interesting bans coming out of the side of Crimson. The Junkrat, I mean, it's one thing I have seen used, sort of not so much against Maiev, but when Maiev does take her, take obviously the Wardens and she locks everyone in position, it creates a great opportunity for a team to collapse. Junkrat can take Riptire and can kind of use that against to his advantage if he baits out all the little things that would destroy the Riptire or maybe even prevent the damage. I mean, the example I saw, the team even had a Tyrael and had to wait out the Sanctification.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering if we might see something like that for Crimson, a Tyrael with the Sanct to make the Warden's Cage even stronger for the side.
That is an option. And also the amount of displacement that the Junkrat brings. If you're going forward as a Maiev, you don't want to just all of a sudden end up getting concussion mined into your enemy forts. Because we saw in the previous game, you can step forward or you step anywhere into like a specific point around objectives. All of a sudden, there's a mine there. All of a sudden, you're where you don't want to be and you just die. So taking that away makes a lot of sense. But the Hanzo Tassa, it's a combination that we see a reasonable amount over in Europe, I believe, with the Tassa pairing up with the Hanzo. But they do have the wave clear, they do have the damage now, and just wondering where they go with their last pick. But it was the Muradin that they do go for on the side of Crimson to fill out their front line.
I still like Muradin is a good, he's a good hero, but I'm just wondering if they didn't need something that brought a little bit more to the table than just a solid stun and then just survivability, getting in people's ways.
One thing that can't be understated is the amount of slows that we have on the side of Crimson that allows Phoenix's damage to really ramp up.
But there are
you've got the lurking arm from the Stukov, you've got the oil spill from Blaze, you've got the thunderclap coming out from Muradin. You've got a lot of tools you've got a decent amount of tools that slow that can really pump up the Phoenix's damage, which might be really important once we get into those mid-game team fights, especially if he goes for that salvo.
Okay, the roll locking in.
Interesting. So, yeah, they have a reasonable amount of durability and sustainability with the shields. They've got the healing, and the Johanna just innately tanky. The Thrall is more of that sustain tank, but he can get caught out.
You think Thrall's going to go solo lane? It's
I believe, I would think so. Like, that's the thing, is like Thrall and Tesla, they both can fill that similar solo laning role, but with the Tesla wanting to pair up with that Hanzo, it looks like with Ryu actually going onto that Thrall, that is going to go into that solo lane. So we're probably not going to be seeing that Crash Lightning, going more for some of the other Chain Lightning talents, because if you're going into that solo lane, you don't want the Crash Lightning because you're not going to be seeing more than one or two people in your lane at any one time. And if you're seeing two people in your lane, you're more likely running instead.
You're backing out because things have gone dangerous. All right, here we are, guys. It's Tomb of the Spider Queen. It's Crimson versus a Mindfreak. And on the on the blue team, Crimson. I think Crimson should always be the red team, in my opinion. But we've got Altivian is playing Maiev. We got Jesmez playing Blaze. Shadow playing Stukov. KVA is on the Muradin. And Azura is on the Phoenix.
And on the red side, our first split champions, I believe, and currently undefeated, it is Mindfreak. We have Fat94 on the Hanzo, Vanilla on Malfurion, John on Tassadar, Ryu on Thrall, and Penta is on the Johanna.
Oh, and we're off. So what we should see is very early on, both teams will try and secure the mid lane, wipe out the minions as fast as they can, and then sort of break off from that solo lane, and then mid to sort of top rotation out of the other four. Is the traditional or the standard way to play this map. See if there's any sort of mix-ups going on here. But yeah, both teams just escaping now. Oh, Altivian, nice pull in, but it's Johanna.
Yeah, with Crimson stepping forward first, they get the first amount of wave clear down. Mindfreak respecting that, not wanting to step too far forward, they just allow them to clear that wave, and they're just gonna react to what Crimson are doing so far.
And this is pretty standard. Like each team's going to be trying to get ahead of the other side. I've seen Muradin do a nice play here where, because they're so solid, they interrupt the rotation on the enemy side. But it was actually Penta that did it more this time, allowing John to get the head up on the mid lane. But Penta, little damage, but it is Johanna, should be able to get out. Vanilla backs up with the heal and back to the neutral game. But again, it was all about trying to get the rotational advantage here, which we definitely see that Mindfreak have done.
And one thing about that engagement, sure, it looked like it was a bit of an overextension from Penta on the Johanna, but it allowed the space for Fat94 on the Hanzo to get a lot of those redemption stacks. So he's already up to 10, and that's one thing we should mention, that because he's paired up with that Tassadar, the redemption does get a lot more value because you are going to be outputting a lot more of those auto attacks and getting value from that. So it does make a little bit more sense to go for that redemption, and especially when you've got that front line to really stand in front of you, you can get those auto attacks down.
Yeah, get the damage out with the auto attacks, and you can stack up the trade, stack up the request, I should say, for Hanzo, which obviously if he dies, does reset. It's not the best of the places.
Yeah, it would be a little bit unfortunate, but throughout all of this, Crimson have picked up their mercenary camp. It's going to force a response out of Mindfreak, because that is one of those camps that you can get a lot of pressure out of that one as well, because it's a very powerful camp, especially this early on into the game. And where we don't have level 4 talents up yet for Mindfreak, well, I guess as Crimson just let it go to the wayside, they aren't really going to get too much more in.
Yeah, that was really good distraction there. Flies from, oh, look at that Stukov. The lurking arm doing a great job locking Malfurion down in place. Getting the kill there. Quest has been completed for Hanzo with Redemption, but we know when he dies, drops 3 stacks. Sorry, when that resets, drops 3 stacks. So it's impossible that he could complete it again later. Rue in the bottom lane's getting punished now. Crimson Jesmez just locking him down with KVA coming in full support. Wow, Crimson they're doing a beautiful showing right now, but is it Mindfreak just not playing all their cards, or is it the Mindfreak we've seen all season, where later on in the game they'll just make an amazing play and really solidify a lead?
Yeah, that's the thing we've seen in the past, even over the past couple of years from this team, is that they do sometimes tend to fall behind in the early game, but they are very good at playing from behind and they're playing with the deficit. They're just good at playing it cautiously. They understand the mid to late game shot calling and just the play style. They do it so very well, and that's how they've gotten a lot of their victories over the years. Is they know how to play the late game, whereas a lot of the other teams in the region are probably a little bit less experienced in that area, and it's allowed these opportunities for Mindfreak to get back in. But we do have this early advantage coming out for Crimson. They have the Web Weavers. Now I have to see how Mindfreak do respond to this.
I like this, Crimson putting pressure sort of mid and top lane now by being in both lanes. They're getting the soak. 3 in mid are really going to get that Web Weaver pushing in. But the top lane, the top lane is such an important lane on this map because the boss is up there. So you also don't want that to be too pushed in, because a cheeky boss or a time when the boss is picked up against you, it's keep pressure and then core pressure.
Or on the bottom side, again, Ryu is going to get a lot of pressure in his lane. He's going to get taken down, and that's another lot of gems going down, and Crimson really punishing this bottom side of the map, and that's essentially what you want to be doing when you have a Thrall. I mean, he has sustained in those long extended fights, but if you catch him out with a lot of that crowd control, he can go down pretty damn quickly, as we saw right there.
Yeah, and it can hurt. So another theory, right, saying that the top lane has the boss. Another theory is because of the way the lanes are structured, particularly with the Web Weavers, that you can push the bottom lane in early, and it kind of helps propel that. The bottom lane's always getting pushed in. Then you have Web Weavers come to the bottom lane, and because there's a bit of a distance traveled, the enemy team has to decide, gee, do we rotate down the bottom to deal with that one first, or do we go to top, which then could open up the boss or open up the core in the bottom lane. Lots of different ways to sort of assume the Web Weaver.
Yeah, and just going to see how this one is playing out so far. Is we do have a rather considerable advantage coming out for Crimson. They are level 9, whereas Mindfreak, they're not even level 8 yet, so they're behind just a little bit, and if they want to get something to happen, they need to do it now before level 10s do get picked up, as you do have a lot of slows coming out from Penta. Did he complete that quest? No, he didn't complete the subdue quest. It's just a lot of slows when you hit multiple people at once. It's just a lot of slow, and it feels really bad to get hit by it, and that could be much more important as we go on, but it's getting closer and closer to level 10 for Crimson, and at that point it's going to be very hard for Mindfreak to really put up a solid defense. They need to either just give up a lot of position if they are down those heroic talents, but at that point it will just keep on snowballing that advantage, and we just have to wait for an opportunity later on down the game as they try to get an advantage as they do get the heroics.
Ooh, Azura there, nice body blocking there, keeping Penner in the field. The Warden Gate's gone down. Is Johanna, will they be able to survive? No, it looks like 4 gems are gone missing on the side of Mindfreak now. They want to recollect them in some way. A little bit dangerous to go out. Might have been caught in the Spirit Rule from Thrall, but they'll follow up. Gems have been retrieved, I believe. So
there was a lot of them that did fall to the ground, so that's a lot of gems just just disappeared into the ether for Mindfreak, and we can see now just how many gems they have been able to get, and it's actually going to be another blue turn-in. So Crimson just keep on applying the pressure. Heroic's not even close to being picked up yet for the side of Mindfreak, and it's been a bit of a rough early game here for Mindfreak. They still have some tools to get back in, but they have to play it very cautiously at this point.
Yeah, we've seen Mindfreak in this position before, where it looks like, wow, the other team, they're doing so well against them, but then Mindfreak just late game just respond so well.
Oh, Vanilla. Oh, Vanilla.
Caught out.
just a little bit of a greedy rotation, and with the rest, probably just seemed like a little bit of a miscommunication. It seemed the rest of the team was moving towards the mid lane as Vanilla was continuing to go up to the top side, but that just gave a brilliant opportunity for Crimson to just cut him off before he could get anywhere. A nice pickup, and it's going to allow Crimson to keep on pushing this advantage. They're almost level, they're getting reasonably close to 13, and Heroics aren't even picked up yet on the side of Mindfreak.
Yeah, in Mindfreak, they're going to have such a massive level 10 game when they get the Heroics, because they'll get them before 13. But look at Crimson back out, leaving Blaze in the bottom lane by himself with another set of web weavers. He's disengaged now, letting them, letting Mindfreak just clean up what's left of the objective spawn. But Crimson doing so well this game.
Yeah, it's been very clean. They're not overextending for these plays. They're just very much understanding how much power they have, and they're utilizing it very well, and playing the map incredibly well, and making sure that Mindfreak just aren't able to get comfortable on this map, as they aren't able to really get a hand in yet. They do have a decent amount of gems, as they do go for an engagement, but then it's kind of all over the place at this point.
Oh, it's a little bit
Oh, here we go.
Nice arrow comes in Cat 94. The fight's going to be turning. However, the gate has prevented a lot of follow-up inside of Mindfreak.
Combustion!
Combustion, where did that come out? I didn't actually check that one there. They get the throw behind it with the Phoenix, however, and just looking for a bit more damage in these fights. I guess they're not too concerned about any big damage plays, because it's only Throw and Hanzo on the side of Mindfreak, but that's interesting choice. I guess maybe just want to test it, GL. Is it still a thing?
It is one of those times where it's just like, well, it's not necessarily everything on the line at this point. It's pretty much nothing on the line in this series because of the way the standings are, but
yeah,
it's interesting to see how it goes. I mean, it does do a reasonable job at zoning. I mean, you don't want to step into that. It can do a reasonable amount. It's just the bunker is so good.
It has a lot of negation, but again, you're just looking at this team. Well, if we take the bunker, maybe if we jump into it, we're just going to have Vanilla dropping entangling roots on the way out, which might be able to punish us. Phoenix doesn't ever want to be in a situation where going into the bunker is a good idea. He'd prefer to just not be in that situation. But look, Mindfreak, look at that. They've got 60. They've got 31 gems, 60 currently in possession.
Oh, that is a bit of an unfortunate situation, as the Crimson is brilliant, and Mindfreak, they just stepped off the point.
Yeah, I guess they got concerned, because they do have a 3-level deficit, and that's quite a large one to think about in a head-on fight. So let's give up the mercs. We can sort of clear them and try something else a little bit later. Even that level 11 on Mindfreak, I'm just trying to think what their comeback game here is.
I think as long as they can just stay in the game, as the game goes on and on, we do have some rather considerable power spikes as we get later into the game. Like at level 16, the piercing arrows on the Hanzo, that'll do more than a reasonable amount of damage. The Thrall can really start to stack up a lot of his damage as well. The Tassar can really help out in that regard as well. But at this point, it's just about surviving, and because at this point they can't really get a hand in. They've really got to outmaneuver Crimson at this point to get a hand in, but it's just not really happening with how many tools that Crimson have just to continuously interrupt and how they can spread them out. It's very hard for Mindfreak to get anywhere near those points, and for a third time in a row, we're getting a blue set of web weavers.
Yep, running down all 3 lanes. All 3 lanes are considerably pushed as well. Not pushed to their maximum, but mid and bottom lane definitely are very healthy on the side of Crimson. But that top lane, I think that's where all the action is going to be. 4 members for Crimson have positioned themselves here, wanting to push for this keep, put core pressure of some description on via catapults, and then later on a boss pressure as well. So, I like the situation. Crimson is setting up a win condition here, and Mindfreak has to figure out how to stop them.
Yeah, they're in a pretty good position. They do have a lot of tools that are available to just keep on pushing. The Lurking Arm was used a little bit early, and it's not going to get the value just yet, as they keep on pushing through. It's kind of split focuses here from both sides, as John has been popping the Archon to try and force away the members. They do take down the Web Weaver, and they do have enough wave clear to force him away, but Pancha, he's going to be the first one to go down as he is getting blasted. Well, he does survive though.
Oh, he gets out of there. That's good. He absorbs a lot of abilities.
Oh.
Re-engage potential here. The turnabout. Nice stun arrow hits 3 members of Crimson. But is it enough? The Water's Gate has been used, trapping Johanna and can't get out to support the team. John is first to fall. And it's not a nice situation for Mindfreak. Penta, again, being pressured, gets someone out. Blue Web Weaver still in the mid lane, still in the bottom lane. Correction, just in the bottom lane. Rue has been having to deal with that, so that's 1 member's down. Look, it's a nice play, but they've only defended their core. They haven't prevented anything from falling.
Yeah, if that fight was on a more even level, I feel as though Mindfreak could have easily taken it. But because they're down at this point 4 levels in a talent tier, it was very hard for them to get anything to work in their favor. They are Crimson are going to be able to pick up this boss, and as you mentioned, this is going to be pushing directly onto a core, and this has to be a response out of Mindfreak. They have to be able to hold on to this, and ideally you'd want to hold on for long enough that you can get the next set of talents, but they just not allow this. They do get red weavers, so they can have this for a potential defense, but the Johanna is all the way out on the map, and they're not able to have that there for this defense just yet. Now they do try and make an engagement, but this boss is at full HP, and they have to try and split their focus. They have to take down this boss, but they also need to prevent Crimson from just taking the core themselves.
Yeah, this is a really dicey situation now. Mindfreak, what can you do for us? Altivian almost about to die. Does it then? The shot's been used. We lose Johanna from the fight. The core is rapidly falling as ensuring chaos ensures, and it's going to be Crimson. They map 1 against the Mindfreak. And
they do prevent Mindfreak from going the entire season without dropping a single map. That was the first map this entire year that they've dropped. So very impressive on the side of Crimson. We do have to have that caveat where this is a series that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because this is the end of the season. Mindfreak are already secured top spot. Both these teams are already secured spots in the Intercontinental Clash, where they will be coming up against each other. So it's kind of one of those results where you have to take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But still, it was rather cleanly done from Crimson.
If both teams are playing to their heart's content, it was a great series by great game by Crimson, being able to get that 1 map against Mindfreak, something that no other team has done the entire season. If Mindfreak are holding back, it's still, you can still say, well, it shows that if Mindfreak don't have themselves in the game, or if there's just something off a little bit, they're just doing something a little bit different than they normally would, Crimson will be able to capitalize on it. And that's another thing to take away from, is that any mistakes or any hesitation from Mindfreak, Crimson can pounce. It's game number 1. I'm really looking forward to our game number 2, GL, to see again what style of drafting we have, because I don't think it was necessarily, it wasn't bad drafting. It was actually quite clever drafting. They're really thinking about not what's meta, but what can punish our team composition.
Yeah, I feel as though that wasn't one of those games where it's kind of lost in draft. I feel as though there was still the tools available to Mindfreak. It just felt like time and time again it just seemed like they weren't communicating, because there were several times where you'd have one person go off and the rest of the team goes elsewhere, and then the solo just gets caught out of place and then collapsed upon by Crimson. To be fair, Crimson played that very well. They saw that there was those solo heroes and they picked upon them very well. And we saw multiple times, multiple members went to that bottom lane and they preyed upon Ryu on that thrall. And that was, you also got to take into account, like, the rest of Mindfreak should have been able to communicate. Maybe there's going to be a rotation down, maybe play it a little bit safer. It just feels like the communication just wasn't necessarily there for Mindfreak in that game.
It's we know that Mindfreak have in the regional tournaments anyway, in our region, they have experimented during their games, even ones that have been more crucial for them to win. They've gone, well, let's try this hero. They come off the 2-week rotation ban or 1-week rotation ban. Let's have a look and see how they function. So we know that they're happy to test new compositions. And I don't know, has Mindfreak played? I can't remember a game this season with Mindfreak taking Thrall.
I think they may have had one.
Think of one off the top of my head. I'm sure they have. I'm not saying that they haven't, but I can't recall a game.
Let me just quick, because think they may have at one point. I'm just
Yep.
going to quickly check. They did play it once, or at least once or twice.
Yep. So it's something that's come up before. Hasn't come up before. But it's good. I'm just looking for see if both teams are ready. We're already getting ready for the second game.
Three times. They've had it 3 times so far this season.
Yep.
So they had 3 wins with the Thrall so far, and that was their first loss, unfortunately. Yep. But yeah, it feels though it was any hero. I feel probably would have fell to a lot of the same plays that were coming out from Crimson. It was just a communication thing, and just I'm just not sure where their heads are in this series. They're probably just going into this very well knowing that they don't. This isn't the series that they need to put their heart and soul into. The one over in Rio is the one where all the prizes are on the line. The first place in ANZ, the chance to go over to the mid-season brawl is on the line over there. So even though it would have been nice to go the full season undefeated, this isn't the be-all end-all. The Intercontinental Clash is where their thoughts are.
Well, they could still go undefeated series-wise. You know, there's still potentially 2 games left. Mindfreak Pro are only 1 down in the series, so they've got no points. They just need to win the next 2 straight. Whereas Crimson, if they win this, they can claim that they've defeated, regardless of any situation, Gio, regardless of anything. They can.
The numbers don't lie.
That's it. They defeated the undefeatable team, and we're on Battlefield of Eternity. And Crimson have already banned away the Tracer again.
Yeah, recognizing that the Tracer is one of those heroes that they just don't want to pick themselves, but they also realize it has a considerable strength, especially on the side of Mindfreak. They have, as we saw in the previous game, they had a Tassadar composition paired up with the Hanzo. If they paired that up with the Tracer, that is also very powerful. It's a combo of old. It's Tas Tracer, and you love to hate it, and you hate to love it.
So we just remove one person from the kit. It does add the reason though that they which is worse, having a Tassadar that you can pair up with someone else, or having a Tracer that you could just have.
Well, also if you pair the Tracer with a Malfurion, we've seen that over the past couple of months, prior to some of the recent nerfs that she's had over the previous patches. Tracer does very well with the Malfurion, because if you just put the regrowth on her, she can just do whatever she wants, and you'll still get those heals because of the Moonfire and the way the mechanics were changed on Malfurion. So there are still options even if you don't have the Tassadar, but if you just take away the Tracer, I mean, Tassadar does have rather limited options. He can go with that Hanzo, as we saw in the previous game, to kind of big success, I believe.
We're going to see how much more success they can have.
Also, the Genji ban from Mindfreak, so just wanted to kind of stick to the standard bans for this series so far. And with the Hanzo first pick, looks like Mindfreak, they are very insistent on these first 2 picks, Maiev and Malfurion. They knew what they wanted, and they insta-locked it. That's about as instant as you can get.
Oh, I reckon they could have shaved a bit of time off.
We're not speed running the draft here, Disco.
All right, so we're going to see Crimson looking this up against Malfurion and Maiev. How can they respond? I mean, you could just still go like you're locking the Stuk off now, or you're locking the Stuk off now, prevent it being banned, and maybe even the Garrosh if they're going to pick up that sort of pick up that tank pretty strong.
Yeah.
Get that out of the way, because either way, if you don't, you're leaving it up for Mindfreak to ban it.
And one of the things with the 2-lane maps is that if you if you had the Garrosh on your side in a 2-lane map, you're okay to go for like a 1-1-3 or a 2-3 kind of strategy, because you can give up a bit of space in that bottom lane, because if the opposing team pushes too far, that Garrosh will punish it.
Yeah, you don't want to give either team really. Right, doesn't want to give either side that sort of room to breathe. They want to like try and strangle out as early on, strangle out in the draft, strangle out in the lane during the game, whatever opportunity to, apply that pressure. And look, Li Ming, I really like seeing Li Ming being picked up. She's just always got such I feel she has a super high play rate in the ANZ region. Like lots of people, lots of teams are defaulting to Li Ming in so many different ways and forms.
And with the lockdown that we have on the side of Mindfreak, with the Muradin, with the Mafuan, with the Maiev, there's a lot of lockdown. The damage coming through from Li Ming can follow up on that incredibly well. And to be honest, towards the end, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Garrosh, not a Garrosh. I just looked at Garrosh and I was like, that one, no, Greymane, the other girl. Greymane could even come in as a last pick on the side of Mindfreak to not only follow up on that style of play, but also give an additional racing threat when it comes to the Immortal. But it's just going to be the Thrall again, so they do have a decent amount of follow-up damage. Whether or not it's going to work this time, I'm not too sure. It's interesting that the Phoenix was picked up on the side of Crimson, because throughout all the different major regions of the HGC, more often than not, you'll see either Hanzo or you see the Phoenix. Very rarely, I believe, you see the Hanzo and the Phoenix on the same team, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen it probably... I can't remember if I have seen it, those two together, because as I mentioned, usually the Hanzo triumphed over the Phoenix in a lot of the matchups that we saw, but very rarely, if ever, we saw them on the same side.
Or that could be the thought there, the pattern here, right? Take it as a preventative option. But that was last pick Hanzo, wasn't it? So it couldn't even be competitive. Hanzo is a strong character, so you're just pairing strong character with strong character.
Yeah, and that's a lot of damage coming out from that back line, and with the Garrosh and the Sonya on that front line, they can take up a lot of the attention of the Mindfreak players, and maybe that's going to be giving enough room over to that Phoenix and that Hanzo to really layer across a lot of that damage. But with what Mindfreak have, it looks like they don't want to go for those back-to-front team fights. They want to be catching out members in those rotations and just blowing them up and then getting those resets through and then rolling through the team fights like that.
Oh, I feel there's nothing dirtier than when those resets come out from Li Ming. And, you know, like you see one hero die, and then resets, another hero die, resets, another hero dies. Just love the chain. Yeah. It's like chain death explosion. That could just be Li Ming's new spell. But here we are, guys. It's Battlefield of Eternity. Possibly the last streamed game of the HGC ANZ Premier League. Crimson are 1 point up. They've done the impossible. They took a map away from Mindfreak and Mindfreak Pro, and they want to do it again and 2-0 them on Battlefield of Eternity. Can they do it? Ooh, I don't know. But we go by the first game. They've got the talent. They've got the ability. Let's see if they can do it 2 times in a row.
Yeah, I feel as though it's not so much on Crimson to actually make the plays to win, because from what we saw in the last game, it just felt like Mindfreak they just didn't feel in the game, and they just got punished time and time again. And if that happens again in this game, Crimson could very well take the 2-0 in this series. But right now, we're just seeing a rather interesting lane swap coming out, instigated by Crimson, and they're just going to start pushing down these towers, trying to get that early, get the early experience, try and accelerate the pace of the game, get towards that mid-game earlier, so we can then have those very big, high-impact plays with those talents and heroics as we get later on.
I want to see which team gives in first, right?
It's a game of chicken at this point.
First, yeah.
So we've essentially got Jesmez on the Sonya and also Ryu on the Thrall. They're just trying to get as much as they can, just soak as much experience, just try and stall them as much as they possibly can. And it looks like the stall is going to be slightly successful on the side of Ryu. The tools on Crimson just weren't enough to keep them around, as KVA is dropping very low. He's going to be forced back, so the first fort does drop on the bottom side, and the fort on the top side does not drop. So this is a rather strong position for Mindfreak at this point.
You gotta have some kahunas, both of these teams. I think what we might have saw there was the pick, because you can actually poke into that a little bit better, a little bit safer. But on the side, Panda, they're getting thrown around, and he can jump out of it, so he's fine for the moment. But Azura, looking at putting damage over the side of the wall, almost completely safe, teleports to even a more safe position. And again, man, Mindfreak playing a really good opening game right now. They've already got the mercs. They've already managed to defend their top lane and push the bottom. Crimson a little bit on the back foot, but 100% I'm sure during the actual Immortal phase should be able to come out on top.
Yeah, just looking at the bottom side, Jesmez does take the camp on the bottom side to respond, but with how... This is a rather interesting early game, because usually we're used to seeing just the 4v4 on the bottom side, the 1v1 on the top side, and just kind of clashing heads until something something breaks essentially. But we've had so many different movements. We've had that lane swap. We've had a lot of priority onto the mercenary camps. It's interesting to see how this is going to impact the rest, or how this Immortal phase is going to go, because we've got a little bit further in regards to experience. We've got a slight advantage over to the side of Mindfreak, and with this fort on the top side still yet to go down, that's a little bit of experience still left in the bank that Crimson can take advantage of, but they're just not allowed that at this point in the game.
You know, Mindfreak is doing a really good job, you know, for stopping them from claiming that experience. But the fight's on that 9-4's gone in. 2-3 of them, I believe that was. A lovely displacement there. They managed to pick up Stukov behind this follow-up, looking for more kills there. Can't quite connect to anyone. Goes back, defending their mortals. Well played there. Behind that, we've actually got Rue and now John working on the enemy with more side of Crimson. We've seen that's why Maev keeps getting banned, or why when Maev is available, most teams tend to grab her up straight away. Just great play potential, and can do the damage as well. You know, she doesn't necessarily, you know, she's not just setting it up. She's setting it up and then delivering some of the final blows.
Absolutely, we saw it right there. Fat94 tethering 3 people, and then when they were brought in, just fan knives, just slashing straight across those members of Crimson, and we saw the amount of damage come out. He's already topping the charts on his team at this point in the game, and that's what Fat94, he's a very, very good Maev player, and this is going to be a great position for Mindfreak. They're playing it rather aggressive with their defense, just trying to force away the members of Crimson, while John is going to be poking away at the blue one, but I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. There's a great tether comes in from Fat94. They want to go for the fight though.
Alright, look at Stukov zoning out, stopping John from getting to the fight. That would have been much needed. Now he's unfortunately stun comes the shadow. The follow-up, Rue gets the kill on Thrall. Lovely play there, lovely positioning. Stukov did do a lot of work to remove John from the fight with the lurking arm, but it's not enough because Thrall was in a great spot.
Lockdown on the Penta, he is going to get flipped around, he is going to get caught out, so that's an unfortunate death. He got caught mid-jump by that groundbreaker, so really well done there from KVA to cancel him out of that and help secure the kill. But in the end, the Immortal does go over to the side of Mindfreak, and that's one of the things when you get when it comes to the Immortals. If you go for the defense, if you are strong enough on that defense, you can really have the Immortal be a big player in those positions, because we saw the amount of stuns coming out. It forces the opposing side to maneuver around that, and that's time spent thinking about maneuvering instead of just playing the fight.
And it gives you an opportunity, you know, during the multiple situation. If you're defending, you've got a 6th man. You've got the to help you out. Great lock in there, down by KVA. Sorry, from KVA pulling in. Good job, Maev. Can't secure the kills just yet, but it has pushed them back, which means the Immortal can get that fortification hands down quite easily. They can back out behind us now on the side of Mindfreak and deal some more punishment around the map. Do you think we're going to see we're going to see a rotation down to the bottom lane to see if they can get a cheeky kill on Jezmez now?
Oh, Azure is now in a really bad position. He wants to get out. Does manage to get the blink out. It looks like Mindfreak were trying to get in onto Jezmez, but he was able to get out of there, so nothing going to happen from that rotation, but this is just going to be back to Union stations, as it's going to be back to what we saw at the start of this game, where it's just priority on minion camps, or mercenary camps, I should say, and it's just trying to jockey for position until the next big objective comes up.
Dude, I'm going to highlight, you know, what the nice target priority there on the side of Mindfreak Pro. You know, they didn't get Sonya, but they obviously that was the target. Why? Why Sonya? Maybe he could have gone for a tricky Phoenix. He was closer. Sonya's the solo laner. By removing Sonya, it would have weakened this lane that they're currently trying to push, allowing Rue to either get more advantage, more experience, or forcing Crimson to weaken their top lane by bringing someone down to respond to it or to deal with it. I like that target priority, you know. I like that thought pattern, you know. It's not just about kills, GL. It's about effective kills.
Exactly. It's transitioning kills or even just significant damage into advantages elsewhere, and that's one thing we usually see from a team like Mindfreak. They are very conscious of how not just the immediate plays, but the plays going forward over the map. And Crimson, they're one of those teams that have really stepped up their game over the course of the season. We can see in this series, taking that first game, they are wanting to challenge Mindfreak for that top spot, and It's with things like that that you need to be doing if you want to really challenge a team like Mindfreak.
Out of all the teams in the league, Crimson are the best team to push it to Mindfreak Pro, and we've already seen that in Game 1. And how is Game 2 going to turn out? Mindfreak Pro are only a little bit in the lead. It's not a massive position right now, but this Immortal, I think, is going to decide a lot of the outcome of this game.
Yeah, Heroics did come up first for the side of Mindfreak, and they used that little bit of extra time to get a lot of damage down onto the Blue Immortal. We can see it's dropped down below half, and this is another thing that with this composition, the Li Ming can do a considerable amount of damage from long distance to the Immortal, which is very hard to defend against unless you essentially dive and go all in on her. So as this goes later and later, we could see that be a play from Mindfreak, where you just kind of play defensively, as we see right here, and then have John on the Li Ming just throwing spells towards that. As they do try and get a good engage, they go all in. Ryu takes a lot of damage.
Oh, that's a great ultimate there.
KVA.
Big stun goes, big taunt goes in. KVA playing amazingly well there. Pushes Mindfreak Pro, no kills. Nothing, but
quite a few heroics burned on both sides. Very high impact ones. You've got the Waller's Challenge, you've got the Purification Salvo, Dragon's Arrow, you've got some very big high impact heroics. Yep. And on the other side, you've got the Tranquility, which was very vital in keeping people alive from that engagement. With that down now, we'll have to see if they can actually keep each other alive, as Batman 4 is taken very low from a great engagement KVA.
Oh yeah, it's really pushed them back, and that's kind of what we sort of reversed there, Mindfreak pushed Crimson out, forced them to go back to do their healing well. The reverse is happening now, it's going back on Mindfreak. So this is an opportunity for Crimson, getting a lot of damage done on the Immortal. Oh, Maya pulls in Ultivian. Oh, Phoenix gonna die as well, the Immortal, the 6th man for the team of Mindfreak Pro.
It happens again! They are sticking around onto the Red Immortal, and he, as you mentioned, he's the 6th man, and Mindfreak are playing with that 6th man incredibly well. Very good lockdown, paired up with the potential stuns coming out from that Immortal, and that is massive. Picking up those 2 kills, all those backline threats. Very big push coming in here for Mindfreak. There's a decent amount of shielding on that Immortal, and they'll be looking for potentially a keep here.
Yeah, no, just a little bit of unfortunate positioning from Crimson. They had to do that though. They couldn't just let this game stalemate out like that, because eventually Mindfreak would have got their heroics back. They did block them earlier, use them earlier, so you would have seen that they would have got them before the round coming out from Crimson, or just a little bit earlier. So I understand that they made that play, it didn't work out for them, but they're not out of the game by far. They can defend this quite easily. They shouldn't. In theory, they shouldn't lose the keep here, but we'll see how this happens. Well,
they'd have to step forward pretty far, as they do have a great engagement. As a lot of heroics yet again are being popped.
Oh, that's it. Jump 94's in a lot of trouble. Have to back out. Maya Penta there, getting onto Jesmed. Jesmed does also have to disengage on low health, and the keep is actually going to fall. I thought they would be able to defend that, but obviously not. And we'll see Mindfreak just back out from this, leave Crimson to deal with the mess. And now it's top lane pressure against Crimson in the form of catapults.
Yeah, I feel as though, as you mentioned, they could have held onto that keep, but because of a few decisions from the side of Crimson, they tried to make a play onto Bat 94 on the bottom side, which left them a little bit late to the defense. And because they went for that team fight, trying to push past the Immortal and try and get a fight beyond that, it left the Immortal free to just keep on wailing away on the structures. So yes, there was probably potential for them to hold on, but because they were trying to, because if they were just holding on, that's just like going back to a reset, but they're not really making anything proactive. They're not trying to push the game forward in their favor. It's just trying to react and negate whatever Mindfreak are doing. So I understand them wanting to make that play, but yeah, it was a possibility for them to maybe hold on to their keep, which is going to be a pressure point for Mindfreak to use for the rest of this game.
Yeah, it's in the win condition, the pressure point, it's a win condition, it's a pathway to victory if they manage to get a big team wipe against Crimson. But again, the Steward Sonya up there, she will clean out that lane quite nicely, but it is going to leave them at sort of like a hero deficit, right? They are 4 heroes fighting against a wave of 5 on Mindfreak.
Yeah, that is going to force someone to be there at least, well, rather consistently. And as we get into this Immortal phase, this is where having a keep down is really quite rough, because you have that those catapults pushing through. you're always going to need to have someone responding. And at that point, Mindfreak, they can play it however they want. They can play defensive until they force a reaction out of, force a defensive reaction out of Crimson, and then they can move forward and make a play. And Crimson, they had to be very careful with how they play around this. They need to hold on to that top lane, because now with the Mercenary camp pushing as well, that will threaten the core. But if they have spent too much time trying to deal with those lanes, they're going to just lose this objective, and that's going to apply a lot more pressure on the other side of the map.
Yeah, that's what each team trying to prevent right now, is any pressure building up too much. Mindfreak aren't quite out of the woods yet. An unfortunate team fight backed up by an Immortal push from Crimson could seal the deal. There's no big strong talent advantage on either team right now. So how they play it, Mindfreak. I really like the defensive game coming out of Mindfreak through this Immortals deal.
Yeah, KVA was trying to make a play, trying to sneak around the right side to potentially get someone out of position, but Ryu just sticking around on that right side, pinged him out, just made sure the rest of the team knew that that is where the Garrosh is potentially coming in from. And as you mentioned, they're playing a very strong defensive game. They can force Crimson to play to their play however they want. And now that we see the reaction coming up for Phoenix on the top side, they do start to move in, but Penta's going to get flung in. He does manage to get himself out, but this is going to be very low health Penta for this point in time. But they do just step back and reassume defensive positions.
Yeah, it's not too much of a problem if we see Myriad and Penta take a little bit of damage. He does have... Hanzo deleted! From the game! Mindfreak Pro flipped the switch, and this is what they're looking for. Zero putting out the damage there. Nice stuns coming out on Vanilla and a Penta, not allowing them to really follow up there. Zero gets out of the way. There's going to be no more deaths, but it's going to be so hard right now for Crimson to follow up. KVA in a bad situation, about to get taken out, uses the taunt to try and live, but does not succeed. Rue gets the kill. Jazmaz, Azura, and Shadow are not able to defend this Immortal, and we're going to see another Immortal come out on the side of Mindfreak now. Bottom lane is not necessarily in a bad spot, but the heroes should be alive. Garrosh 18 seconds, the last one to res on the side of Crimson. They should be able to respond to it, but the top lane is open, so we could see Mindfreak sneaky rotate up, put pressure there, or back up the Immortal and then rotate down. It's going to be...
This is going to be a rough defense, because level 16 just picked up from Mindfreak, so they do have those extra talents at their disposal. They have the extra level in their pocket, so just a little bit of extra stats are very nice to have. But yeah, this is going to be very hard. A full health Immortal with that massive shield is going to, at minimum, take down this keep. There's not really a lot that Ultigan on the Hanzo can do more than just poke away with those arrows, as they do fling in Penta, but a great lockdown, but they're not able to follow up because they're so distracted by all these different possibilities being thrown around, and it's very hard for Crimson to actually get in onto these fights, but they do get engaged onto 3.
Oh, that's a nice Dragon Arrow there on the back line, stunning on. They're going in now. Jezmez almost falling, but the taunt saves him.
Nice.
We get the kill on the back line. The Thrall and the Malfurion are falling down now. Jezmez again in down situation, gets taken out. Resets goes for John. John gets the second one. Can John get a third? Looking for another target. No one is on low health. Penta gets the stun. Yes, made that a 3. That's a hat trick for Li Ming. And
not the Quadra, but they do end up cleaning up that fight. They did lose too, but with that Immortal, it probably alone would have been able to push down the score, and that is going to be game 2 going on to Mindfreak, and we have a tied series, Disco.
The equalizer. Mindfreak are not happy with the outcome. Not happy with the outcome of the first map, going like, ooh, we do need to pay mind. This isn't anyone. This isn't a happy game.
We don't want to
storm. This is Crimson. This is the second position team, second seed team here. If we give them, you give Crimson an inch, they're going to run a mile. That we saw in game 1. Game 2, there was moments where it looked like Crimson were almost going to get back into the series, but Mindfreak just, denied them. Just, computer says no. Sit down, boys. But game 3, the final map of tonight. And this is a game that could go either way. Both teams playing amazingly. Both teams 100% deserve to be where they are at the moment. Both teams playing like crazy people. It's just it's so refreshing to see as the last game of the season.
Yeah.
What's gonna transpire. This is literally the last game of the season, GL. Like, this is what are we gonna do? It's all over after this one.
Well, I mean, there's Crucible games coming up, I guess, over the next couple of weeks. That'll be announced as we get more information about that.
More details.
Details will come out over time. There's Intercontinental Clash we can tune into later on. There's the mid-season brawl, but yeah, it's going to be a while until the season starts back up again. And I'm really happy with ending it off with a bang. I mean, coming to the series is like, it doesn't necessarily mean much how much both of these teams are going to invest in terms of their strategy. But both of these teams,
this means hate. This is honor. Honor.
That's the thing. It's like both these teams
respect.
They don't want, or Mindfreak, they do not want to lose to Crimson. Even if it's in a game that doesn't necessarily mean anything, they do not want to drop a game or drop a series to Crimson.
No, like this is all about your morale now going over to Latin America. They're locked in. Yeah, you're 100% right. They're locked in. The season is over as far as the league points are concerned. Nothing they do will change their outcomes. But it's all morale boosting. It's Crimson winning the next game. Is them defeating it's not quite David and Goliath. It's let's call it David after a couple of months at the gym versus Goliath. Crimson versus the Giant. But if they upset it, if they beat Mindfreak, they beat the unstoppable, the immovable force, which was Mindfreak, was beaten by Crimson. Yeah,
coming to the series, Mindfreak hadn't dropped a single map. After this series, we might see that they've dropped a series. So that would be really that would be something, a massive talking point as we get into the Intercontinental Clash, is that maybe something's going on here. It's like Mindfreak, what's going on? It's like whether or not they're taking it as seriously here as they should once we get to the Intercontinental Clash and the money, the potential to go over to the mid-season brawl. Once that's all on the line, whether or not they just like show up a lot of these, I wouldn't say weaknesses. It's just like
it's stress, right?
It's I think it's just like oversized. It's just like playing it just a little bit fast and loose. Especially in that first game, there was communication mishaps. It was like it just didn't feel like Mindfreak with some of their decision making. It just didn't seem like them. But in that game right there, on Battlefield of Eternity, that was much more like them. Just very decisive, much more clean, much more concise. And that's the Mindfreak that we're used to seeing. And it's like, which one are we going to see in this one?
Look, I don't think it sort of really matters. It just highlights. Yeah. It highlights the position. Again, I think I said in the first map. Crimson won, and there was either it's two possibilities. It's two areas. Crimson either won hands down, played better than Mindfreak.
You can't take it away from that. They did play very well.
But then the second point is that even if it's like, well, Mindfreak weren't really playing seriously, or they're not taking the game seriously. Look, it doesn't matter, because it means that if Mindfreak are gonna be disrespectful, they are gonna get punished by Crimson.
Yeah, I don't think it's like I don't think it's a matter of I don't think it's a matter of Mindfreak just not taking it seriously. I think it's just like they were just a little too lax coming into that because of the state of it and how it's not necessarily up for anything. It just felt like they were just playing a Hero League game.
Too many brewskis before the match. Well, no, I'm excited for it. It looks like both teams are ready now. We're going to the final map of this evening. It is Sky Temple. It is Crimson versus Mindfreak Pro. 1-1 apiece. It's a best of three. It's a best of three. First of two. Someone has to walk away the victor after this game. Oh, GL, if only we had a double core death at the same time. How amazing would that be? That would just... it would highlight.
I would not know how to respond to that.
I can't remember if I've seen one or if it's an actual legit thing. I think I've seen
on this two cores simultaneously going down
have blown up. I don't know if there was a draw. I think one, that's called the frame data, right? The frame data. One did die before the other. But I've seen two cores literally on 0%.
Play fighting games.
I love fighting games.
You play fighting games with all that frame data stuff.
All games.
Anyway, we're into the draft. It looks like it was a map pick for Crimson because he's going to be first pick over to the side of Mindfreak. Interesting. So we're actually finally having a bit of an adjustment to the start of the draft, at least. Whether or not we'll see changes to the bans, it was Tracer Genji both times. Whether or not the Maiev becomes a bit more of a priority because of what we saw in games 1 and 2, how much playmaking potential that hero has. But whether or not Crimson are willing to give up that ban onto the Tracer that they had in those first 2 games, whether or not they feel as though that's worthy enough, and it is just going to... They've realized, yep, that Maiev is a little bit too strong.
They don't want them to have that. And it's actually funny, so it's switched now. Mindfreak are the ones that are banning first, so this map has been picked by Crimson to play on. Crimson's like, we're going to win on Sky Temple. So they've given up the opportunity to pick up Maiev in the first round of the first round of picks, outside of not being banned. So they know the power. Like you said, they know the power. They know how effective she can be. She's gone. But this opens up so much on the side of Mindfreak Pro. They can go at early Medivh, they can go an early Garrosh, they can go, well, do we want to do Phoenix? Yep. Maybe.
There are quite a few options still available. The Malfurion, they're just going to go for the Tracer. It was banned away first 2 games, and we're going to find out why it was banned, I guess.
There's a scrim. There's a story behind this. There's a scrim.
There is most definitely. Scrims. Well, one thing that's interesting, you mentioned scrims, and I saw earlier today on Twitter, Ryu was saying that it's a little bit unfortunate that the only teams that they can actually scrim against at this point, because of how the season is played, or the point of the season where we're at, the only team that they can really scrim against is the team that they're versing tonight, being Crimson, and the team that they will verse over in Latin America, being Crimson. So there is a lot of things going behind closed doors with these teams, and I think this is one of those things that we're starting to see.
Yeah, it's just the background players. Malfurion and Sonya, not quite insta, but halfway through, I should say, locked in by Crimson. Solid solo laner, solid support. Great. We've said it again, you're great for setting up plays, great situations with Malfurion with the entangling roots, and even saving heroes. And something, preventing possibly Tracer from engaging in a particular angle, or just on the pure Sonya pick alone, the spear into a target is enough time for a great entangling roots to lock them down in place.
And also, the Tracer not being allowed to be paired with the Malfurion, that is one of those things that's very powerful. So very heads up for Crimson to take that away. But do we see the Tassadar come out for the side of Mindfreak? Do we see them potentially go for that combination to try and give Tracer a little bit more freedom in some of these fights? Because, as you mentioned, that Poison Spear coming out from the Sonya, that can do a ridiculous amount of damage. Even though it did get nerfed, it's still very strong. So we're actually just going to see the Junkrat and the Malthael. So we do have a reasonable amount of just like control in a lot of these areas. Junkrat is so annoying to deal in and around these objectives, and we saw it banned in the first game of this series on Tomb of the Spider Queen, and it's actually going to get picked up before the second ban here by Mindfreak. So interesting how this draft is played out. We've got essentially all the damage and backline on the side of Mindfreak already locked down. We still need the support and frontline.
And they've taken, they've got to take a tank and they have to take a support. Would you run a solo Tassadar in this mix-up? You're safe, right? You're looking at Crimson. Okay, Crimson, what do you want to ban out? Do you want to ban out our support or our tank? That's really the question here. If they ban out a tank, it weakens some options for them. So they've gone for support instead because they have the first ban in this set. What I was trying to get to, I don't know why it took me so long to get out. But Zeratul removed.
Yeah, I mean, it would prey upon the Tracer and the Junkrat quite well, and with a lot of setup play potential with the Void Prison, that can be just really annoying to deal with, and they just don't want to allow Crimson to be able to take that one away. And just looking at potential pickups on the side of Mindfreak is like the frontline and the support. So things like Muradin and Iraq, ETC is still on the board, Garrosh is still available, but I won't be surprised if Crimson pick it up in this rotation.
Well, they'd want to pick it up now because any tank they don't take, they're letting potentially Mindfreak pick it up.
That's the thing. I mean, they can look towards just cleaning up a lot of their, they can fill out their backline because they're not necessarily, they know what they're up against in terms of a backline.
Yeah, they can pick the right character for the job. Going Phoenix and Muradin, just straight Muradin. So much on the board opens up. I really feel it. I think Garrosh here. I still think Garrosh for getting Malfurion or Phoenix into a better position for all your other characters.
Yeah, the Garrosh wouldn't go too far. Well, wouldn't be too out of place. I mean, it's very strong, and more displacement is still pretty good. You use the Wrecking Ball and Groundbreaker combo, and then all of a sudden, with all that time spent in the air, the Junkrat has the time to set the mine and send someone flying. So that is a potential combination that they can work with, but I was trying to think what they go with for support. I mean, the Stukov is available, which is interesting that it's gone this far without even being looked at.
Oh, yeah, I want to say
Rhaegar is available. There are the usual options of Malfurion and Uther. Malfurion, Uther, Stukov are usually the top three at this point. The Stukov is the only one that's available, but frontline, nothing's really been taken. It's actually going to be HGC Rhaegar that don't go for that. They don't go for the Garrosh, but they go for the lockdown with the ETC. So rather tried and tested combo. It's not something necessarily we're expecting, considering what we had still left on the table, but it's still very strong nonetheless.
I thought Li Ming there. Try and punish the Tracer and the Junkrat. Low health. Yeah, I was thinking about the Rhaegar, and I was looking at the options there. You've got characters who could get locked down by a Malfurion, and once they are locked in place, or even by the Muradin or the Sonya, throwing out an Ancestral Heal onto them, because they have such low health that it's going to go off, right? It's not like, I've used it and they're only on 70%. They're going to take the damage when the time gets stressful. But I'm more interested, like the Malfurion, when he's in there, I mean, that Ancestral Heal on the Malfurion is just going to keep him in the fights, keep him in the fights longer. He's going to deal more damage, give him time for his own sustain to kick in.
And also, one thing to note is that the Rhaegar brings a cleanse. That's one thing that Stukov doesn't bring in kit, and that's one of the things that he can be faulted for, if anything, of his kit. One of the things is that he doesn't bring a cleanse. The Uther that was banned away does have a cleanse. The Rhaegar is another one of those heroes that does. And with, as you mentioned, the Mana Lockdown, the Malfurion, the Muradin, they can be, or if they do lock someone down, people can die really quickly with the follow-up from a Phoenix and a Li Ming. So that cleanse will be quite important as we get later into this game, where you have, as you mentioned, these very low HP targets. If they get locked down for even the slightest bit, they can go down immediately, and that can really spell disaster for Mindfreak.
Yeah, I think that is their Achilles heel, is that a lot of the heroes they're playing can disappear very fast. I don't mean disappear because they're safe and they can escape. Disappear as in they'll be removed. And
we saw it in the previous game. We saw a Hanzo go from 100 to 0 in about half a second flat.
That's it. Seconds. And speaking of it, it's almost time for the final game of the HGC ANZ Premier League, at least on the stream anyway. There could be some happening in the background. But guys, it is Crimson on blue versus Mindfreak on red. One apiece. It's the final. Can Crimson do it and beat Mindfreak, the undefeated team the entire season? Or will Mindfreak just stop it at a 2-1 and refuse to drop a set? We're about to find out very shortly.
Yeah, it's rather intriguing, as we do have Panda taking a lot of damage, but the healing is there. That's one thing. Well, I guess spot healing from a Rhaegar isn't that bad, but once we start getting to these very extended team fights and you have these spells being flung left, right, and center, it can be a little bit hard for the Rhaegar to keep the healing numbers coming.
Yeah, more of like a burst sort of heal character. He's going to be able to heal up someone in danger, but he's trading that for his overall sustain, at the end of the day.
Yeah, interestingly enough, we don't have the Prog coming out for Penta. We do just have the Guitar Hero, actually, as Vanilla is going to be the one first core out, and there is no way out of that one.
Eden. Out. Rhaegar already. Well, we've seen the Malfurion, we've seen the lockdown already providing benefit, and that's what we talked about, Junkrat, Rhaegar, or Tracer all can be explodable. They're highly combustible to hero damage.
Absolutely, they are very squishy, and as we saw, if they get locked down, they don't have ways out. I mean, as we get later and later, John on the Junker will have some of those concussive mines to get him out of a spot of bother, using Rip the Air or just like standard just mind play to get him out of some of those awkward situations. But sometimes it's just not necessarily enough, especially when you have tools to really chase after that.
Yeah, chase after it and end it. But both teams here, it's like besides the heroes are different, it's almost a mirror match. Each team doing exactly what the other is doing.
At this point.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna. Murden's in the top lane against Rue, so they know that Sonya must be off grabbing their Mert camp. So we see Mindfreak responding, grabbing their Mert camp as well. ETC positioned in the mid lane, just acting as a sentry, seeing what's going on. Junkrat in the bottom, acting as a little bit of the mini solo laner down there. He's currently all by himself now. He must feel so lonely, John.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually able to deal with the siege camp coming in all on his own, managed to concussion mine them back into his tower, so they were doing a lot of the damage and really cleaned them up very efficiently. As we did have a bit of a delayed cap on the side of Mindfreak, wanting to get as much pressure out of this camp as possible and utilizing it as much as possible as a team, as we do have a rather considerable rotation up to the top side from both sides. Yeah,
also focusing, looking for that pressure in the top lane, trying to gain the advantage there. They both got mercs as well. They're trying to get their mercenaries effectively with the bonus, with a bit of value there. But the temples are alive now, so let's see how each team responds to it. Mindfreak already jumping onto the mid lane one, getting a couple of shots in. Just banging out. That's actually kind of nice here, GL, because they can just do a bit of trading now. And as long as they get all the shots in the top tower, they sort of come out on top.
Yeah, just a bit of poking and prodding here and there as Family 4 tries to get aggressive, but just takes a lot of damage back in his face in return. But yeah, Ryu is going to be able to control this one in the mid lane for a reasonable amount, but we do have rotation come from Azure, and he could be going down if not for John's help.
Oh, nice displacement there. Azure knocked back, can't fall off on the Ryu and get the kill on the Malfeal. And that's going to, again, allow them to pick up the mid. But because, a couple of the earlier shots, it is a little bit in the favor of Mindfreak right now.
Yeah, they've just been trading back and forward. In the end, the middle one will go more in favor of Crimson, but this is allowing Mindfreak to just control the top side of the map. Just keep on applying pressure, but meanwhile, in the middle of the map, John taking a lot of damage. He's almost going to go down, but the slows coming out from that fort allow John to get away as Azure takes a bit more damage than he would have liked.
Yeah, look at that. Sonya actually spent a lot of this time actually down in the bottom lane herself, getting extra experience for her team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we see Crimson slowly pushing out a lead here. This is actually some really nice forward thinking on the side of Crimson right now, trying to get themselves that level 10 for the next objective. Line is breaking out there. Azure caught in a bad situation there. Does make it out because it's only 3 members on the side of Mindfreak. They can't punish. In fact, it might go the other way, and Penta might get punished for his transgressions. Gets taken out. His immediate stun. Penta's out for blood onto Vanilla, gets taken out. Can they do a hat trick themselves? No, that 94 does get away on the Tracer. Wow, that is just the reflexes just then. I should say, of KVA there on Meriden, throwing out the hammer instantly for that follow-up kill. That was nice, GL. That was. I can't. Just a nice. I got no other words for it.
It was a clean turnaround. It was the attempted play coming out from Mindfreak, but they just weren't able to secure that kill. And when they just turned it around, they use a lot of their tools to get in, and at that point, they don't have any way of getting out. And the good body blocking from KVA and also the lockdown and the damage coming through from the rest of the teams, they weren't able to secure that kill. And they're in a pretty good position at this point. They are going to be getting their level 10s, their heroics, very soon, and this could be an opportunity for them to make a rather considerable play around the map. Do they potentially go for a boss play with this extra advantage? Or do they just try and just keep on applying pressure, try and take down some of those extra structures in time for this next temple?
I really feel that the map is always about pressure, right? You don't want it to go into the boss pit. Still throwy, even though they got the 10, it's still throwy because 10 is fast approaching for Mindfreak. So I think try and get the advantage here now. Get these towers down and maybe get the well down and make this temple so much easier for you to collect.
Absolutely, and we do have heroics now on the side of Mindfreak. They do have some good tools to disposal as the mosh pit is there, but Azure is just going to get locked down immediately. Whew, that is a little bit rough to deal with. That's one of Phoenix's problems. Oh, wow, that is the
Super trade.
Yep, that is a Tracer going down immediately. Oh, perfect.
That's double members fought now. There's nothing they can do. ETC has to lock them down, but beside that, they got to kill onto Li Ming. Following up again, it's turning. The fight is turning in the favor. KVA taking a lot of damage. Riptide came out, connected to him. He will fall. Mindfreak slowly starting to push it out in their favor now. Slight, very, very slight level lead. Ryu instantly rotates up to the mid lane to soak experience while the rest of them capture the objective.
Yeah, that was a great kill coming out onto Fat 94. The Twilight Dream was really good, but because they just didn't really have anything else left, and because a lot of their damage was down with the Phoenix dropping at the very start of that fight, they just couldn't really keep the fight going. And a great slide into a mosh pit coming out from Penta really set up that fight, and at that point there really was nothing that Crimson could do. And also great interruption of a lot of those mobilities from Penta. He's just done so well. He's interrupted the Phoenix when he's trying to get out. He also interrupted KVA when he was trying to leap out of the way. So really good in setting up those 2 kills for this team.
Yeah, perfect. Just a solid. It was a solid fight.
Yeah, and now we do have a decent advantage coming in for Mindfreak. They do have that bottom fort down. They haven't dropped any forts for themselves. They are close to 13. Whether or not that's going to be enough to really try and pose an advantage, but with mercenary camps being pushed into the top side of the map, I have to see where the next big play is going to come, because we have quite a few members. They're hovering around this boss area. They're waiting for something to happen here.
Yeah, each team knows exactly what each other want to do there. KVA tried to get a stun on the Vanilla and missed, but they will go into Altivian now. Doesn't have his teleport, in a bad situation. Gets taken out by Oru with the last rites.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really good. I mean, we've seen throughout this night a lot of the Malfurians taking the Tranquility and getting a lot of value in those extended team fights. If the Tormented Souls was picked up on the side of this Malthael, he could heal through a lot of that. But with the Twilight Dream going and also the last rites, it's all about just getting those kills, just securing those kills in these fights. And with that kill onto that Sonya, Crimson just couldn't keep a fight going, so they do just back away. They try and get advantages elsewhere. But they do give up the boss, and this is going to force a reaction out of Crimson.
Yeah, they did put that pressure in the top lane, so if boss is in the bottom, they should be able to clean up with Li Ming and Phoenix down there dealing with it. Phoenix separated out to deal with the next lane of minions coming. But it slowed down. The smart play from Sonya slowed down the aggression coming out of Mindfreak.
Yeah, and now we are getting into the next round of temples, one on the top, one on the bottom, and with where each team is positioned, it looks like Mindfreak, they are going to have control of the top side, but they're still waiting to get enough vision of the rest of Crimson before they can really make a conscious decision, because we can see Ryu was being a little bit cautious about his movement onto that point. He was wondering whether or not there were going to be any members from Crimson making their way towards him, but they do realize that they have a reasonable amount of information, so they can secure that top one, and they're also starting to move their way towards this bottom one with a few members, but it looks like KVA is going to control this for the majority.
Yeah, too easy on this one. They're going to get that pressure. It's going to move down in the bot. The mid's going to fall as well. So this is actually a really nice play. It's sort of like Crimson are catching up now with their structural damage. I don't know if it's going to be enough to take out the top one. It might be actually. Yeah, it's actually going to take out the top one as well. So each team kind of just like neutralizing the first round of structures. Mindfreak only slight advantage, I would say, because that lasers were directly pressuring onto the towers and walls.
And that's one of the things with this map, is that if you get even the slightest of structural advantages, you can then leverage that into just playing. You can just trade temples. If you go 1-for-1 in temples after getting into the slice structural lead, over time you will end up taking down more significant structures. And that's just, I feel as though that's essentially what the game plan was there for Mindfreak. Just not wanting to overextend, not wanting to make a play where there wasn't really a necessary big upswing. Because they had the Malthael up on the top side, it would have at best been a 4v4, and with that Malthael not there, they didn't have that securing with that last rites. They just didn't want to risk it. So just trading those temples, still a reasonable play to make.
Yeah, they haven't lost anything. And sometimes a trade where you don't lose anything is a good situation. It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing going on, or the enemy getting a small advantage.
We can see now, Mindfreak are very aware of the kind of play that Crimson want to make. they've been pinging out a lot of these brushes, realizing that KVA wants to just initiate a fight, get someone caught out in the rotation, and then just roll through from there. But Mindfreak, you can tell they've really switched on in this game now. They're a little bit shaky at the start of this series. It felt like they were a little bit asleep on the phone, but now they are very much in sync. They are coordinating a lot of their plays, just communicating where the rest of Crimson are going to be, and they're making it much harder for Crimson to make a play back into this game.
Yeah, to get in that beautiful position where they can really take it out of victory. But I mean, they're still in the line there. Pento power slides out of harm's way. About 94 taking a little bit of damage. He's used his blink, so he's got to be careful here. Desmed not looking for damage, just more concerned about the lane. Cleaning it up so they can approach into the enemy team. Looking for a target, but can't find anyone right now. Just go and secure the top temple and say, hey, coming to me now. Coming to me, Mindfreak. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah, and this is going to be a little bit awkward for Mindfreak because, as we were saying, that yes, they did have the structural advantage, but because they don't necessarily have the solid front line that can just stand there and just be a presence, they don't necessarily have. Yeah, they can't really step forward, and this has just allowed this Sonya to stand on the point and take down quite a couple of towers with that. But it looks like they're just trying to go for an engagement onto him as Desmond takes a lot of damage, and should take him down. Disco.
Oh, last right gets him. That's very nice there. Taken down now on the side down for Mindfreak. Looking for targets to kill. Split up a little bit. Pressure going under Shadow, but KVA is also taking a lot of damage as well behind Vanilla Fat and John. However, Ruin Penta have pushed the others away. Knocks back KVA in bad situation. Avatar's popped to keep himself alive, but he will be taken out now. No, still alive.
Trading kills
finally
again.
Drops. Yeah, traded a Tracer for Muradin, but Sonya's gone. There's no line, but a lot of the burst damage is kind of gone right now side of Mindfreak, so they do back out. Not wanting to risk it just yet. Looking for opportunities to take advantages somewhere else on the map. You think, are we going to go for a clean here into Siege Giants, or are they going to think they're going to try and do the boss? Nope, just Siege Giants.
I think boss will be a little bit risky at this point.
Yeah, risky.
Considering they don't have their Tracer around to apply a lot of extra threat, and with the members of Crimson starting to make their way towards this area, but they do recognize that Mindfreak can make this aggressive play with the numbers advantage, although the Rhaegar is still a little bit behind, but they are going to be able to just catch that point as Penta does slide himself away. Good defensive play coming out from Mindfreak.
Nice, preventing a follow-up. But again, we're still just in a neutral stage here. Each team is looking for some way to catch out the opponent, catch them in a long drawn-out rotation, catch them doing the boss, catch them clearing a lane. But both teams are stuck like glue to each other, trying to not leave each other's side at all.
Yeah, and we're just waiting for the next big play because we're just waiting for this game to explode. It's been so close, so back and forward, just been trading left, right, and center. The only difference right now is that one extra kill on the side of Mindfreak and a little bit of extra damage onto that top keep in favor of Crimson. There's really not much left in this, or not much between these two teams, and I'm really not sure how the rest of these are going to go because we've had these very kind of all over the, well, kind of fights on different fronts. We've had very strong fights coming for Crimson where they picked up some very early kills, but in those very scrappy team fights, Mindfreak have these tools to just eke out these advantages and just get these advantages for themselves.
Looking at the trade situation here, I feel it's an interesting one there. It looks like Mindfreak are going to give up the bottom temple in favor of choosing the mid one. I guess it gives Tracer a better option to come and help the mid temple because she has gone to the top lane to start pushing. But the laser strikes on the bottom lane obviously go on the bottom keep, the lane against Mindfreak, which obviously has a boss in it. Yeah,
this is a rather intriguing play coming out from Mindfreak. As you mentioned, the trade, or in terms of the lasers, it is going to be a little bit more favorable for Crimson, especially because that boss is on that lane.
Yeah, on that lane, yeah.
Yeah, it's rather intriguing. I mean, they're just playing for that super late game at this point. They're just understanding that if they try and overextend and they lose out on a fight, because that is a possibility because of the line they have, it's rather squishy, and if they get caught out in a disadvantageous fight and they lose it at this point in the game, they could very well just lose the full game. And with that full temple taken down on that bottom side, that's a lot of damage onto that bottom keep, and that is a potential win condition coming out for Crimson. But both camps on the top side were picked up by Mindfreak, and that has to force a response out of Crimson.
Oh, they're going to pick up the lasers here, the final part active temple, and then they can get a boss here, because, you know, Crimson have to respond to that massive push coming down the top lane there with the Moon. Jesman's acting as a bit of sentry, telling what's going on, but the trap was not sprung, but obviously provided vision.
This is incredibly risky, and yeah, Penta uses the blink just to get out of there, realizing that he was not in a safe position. And they do just get out of there. But throughout all of this, that camp on the top side is still pressuring. They pick up another camp for themselves. The siege camp will be pushing on the bottom side. And now this is just a waiting game for Mindfreak. They just need to wait for a response to that camp on the top side, and then they can try and make something happen. Then they can try and posture a little bit more aggressively, as they are doing now.
Yeah, like they know that the Phoenix is there, right? They know, okay, you're down a member, we can do this, we can clean it up, rotate in. Are they going to attempt the boss, try and get the 4-man to engage? The boss is so risky. It's like the boss is a red herring right now. It's just there. You don't want to do it, but in the same breath you do.
I mean, they have tools for securing it. They have the concussion mines. They do have like a lot of zone control there in their kit, but it's just very risky. You've got a lot of damage coming out from the side of Crimson that you really don't want to be just stacking into a small space for. I mean, look at Mindfreak. They're realizing that they can't necessarily make the boss play, but Crimson, they're just going to pick up where Mindfreak left off, and they're going to start it for themselves.
All right, and this is I actually like this play by Crimson. They have they've either seen Tracer
force a reaction out of Mindfreak essentially.
Yeah. But not a little bit scared. They're not sure, like, oh, did Tracer get there in time? Oh, we're not 100% sure, but Tracer's going to be trying to sit in the top lane and pushing in. More temples are spawning, so each team is going to have to give up. They're going to go, oh, we'll come back later.
And one thing to note is that these temples, neither of these will apply pressure on that bottom keep of Mindfreak, so they'll go for mid and top, which is really good for the side of Mindfreak, as a bomb goes down onto Azure, but he does get out of it.
Teleports away to his safety. Very nice. One of the nice things about Phoenix, that you can get out of those terrible little situations there. But temple spawning. Each side wants the mid lane one. They're like, nope, we want this mid one. But Mindfreak not wanting to engage, because both teams made this is game territory.
This is super close, and both of these teams, like, well, I guess Mindfreak, they don't necessarily have the strongest of front. They don't have a strong front line, so it's very hard for them to push forward. But at this point, they're just going to trade. They do have much more structures in the mid lane in their favor, and just looking at the damage being done to the side of Crimson Space as KPA, he's getting caught out as you. Just walking straight through as the Riptide's going to come out, doing a decent amount of damage to Crimson, as they might want to start a fight now, as they do get the lockdown.
Oh, there's a come down. Nice big fault there by Azura. A lot of damage going out across the board there. KVA trying to get something done. Sonya has fallen on the side of Crimson, so it's not looking good in that regard. They are down a member. Trying to get the job done.
That is quick.
Oh, look at that. Phoenix has fallen. Has Phoenix fallen?
But
No,
the
Phoenix
went down, but he uses death cannot stop him, so he has come back, and he is back for the fight, so it is still going to be a 5v4 in favor of Mindfreak. The rest of the shots do go over to Crimson, and it does finish off the rest of that keep. But it looks like Mindfreak, they're just going to use this man advantage to just take this boss. Yeah. Potentially just blow out this game.
Oh man, that confused me for a second there. I was like, wait a minute, I'm sure someone died. What's going on? Oh, right, there's all the 100% man advantage here. They are going to get the boss. Penta is the gatekeeper right now. Stopping the entire Crimson. Has to back out. The trade's going on. The boss is about to be captured.
There we go.
It does get in the job there. Nice placement there of KVA.
Oh, that could be it. Azure tried to go in, tried to make the big play. He blinked in, but because he went in and didn't secure it, he was just in a bad position. Tivian looks like he might be the next one to go down, but he does manage to get out just in the nick of time. But with one man down, actually a second one as John, he's just stepping forward and he wants to finish this series.
Yeah, this is almost over from Crimson. They have 3 members alive. I want to say that they can pull off a miracle here, but
it's very hard.
The
back line is dead. They don't have their Phoenix, they don't have their Lemmy, they can't safely poke down this boss, and they've also got a siege camp pushing behind it, so there's so much pressure coming into this core. They have to make a play, but it's so incredibly hard to do so.
But they don't have the right tools to make that play, because both heroics are down right now from Malfurion and Sonya. So this is it. This is the last stand from Crimson. This is everything. Rue being very cautious there, stays back, doesn't himself up, but Jesman's going deep as they can, but the core is exploding all around them, and the final match for the HGC ANZ Premier League is 2-1 in the favor of Mindfreak Pro. But Crimson, they rocked up tonight for a game, and they gave it to Mindfreak Pro, taking the first map, doing it something that no other team has done this entire season. Take a map of Mindfreak Pro.
That was just a really tense mid to late game on that third game, because as I mentioned, no one had taken even a map throughout this entire season. They were potentially able to, or almost in a position to take the series against Mindfreak, but they just weren't able to in the end. Just the experience coming out from this Mindfreak roster played just those little nuances here and there towards that end game just really just paid off. And that's just going to be, even though it is still just pretty much a clean sweep through the season for Mindfreak, that is going to be a talking point as we get into the intercontinental clash between these two teams. Yeah, how is that going to match up again?
Yeah, I feel like we talked about a bridge, we talked about a gap at the start of the season. Like, what's the gap between all the teams? And all the teams have come so far this season, and every team deserves a pat on the back. Those ones that turned up each week to play and dedicated for it. But really, Crimson are the closest team right now to taking a series away from Mindfreak Pro. They played well, they played amazingly, and we're just going to see them grow and get stronger. There's enough time now and between Latin America where I feel Crimson will get the skills to take it to Mindfreak Pro, and I even believe that Crimson can beat Mindfreak Pro at Latin America. But we will see. We'll see the future. Well, the future's just around the corner. Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in and week out to watch the HGC ANZ Premier League. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Have enjoyed all the games that we've streamed over the last 8 over 9 weeks. GL, what about your thoughts? Your thoughts, good sir. Have you enjoyed the season?
Oh, of course I've enjoyed it. It's been an incredible season. It's been so fun to be able to cast, not just because before this full league setup, we've just had random qualifiers into top 4 finals. But now that we've got this league set up and it's much more structured, it was, as you mentioned, a lot of these teams, the growth of them has been incredible, and I'm just very excited to see how some of these teams progress into the next phase after the mid-season brawl, and potentially some of the new teams coming through once we get through the crucible, the promotion and relegation matches, whether or not some of those teams could be able to threaten some of those top few spots. And I'm just really excited to see how this whole region is going to grow in terms of Heroes of the Storm, and how this league is going to develop.
That's it. Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm so excited, guys. Look, the entire team here, it's the entire casting talent, GameStar, Blizzard, ANZ, Blizzard as a whole, the teams, and any viewers, guys, thank you all so much for making this an amazing experience. Everyone deserves a pat on the back for a well done first phase for Heroes of the Storm in the ANZ region. But guys, thank you all very much for watching the show. That is it. Please give this channel a follow if you haven't already. Jump on Twitter, follow Blizzard_ANZ, or the I can't remember the esports one. Is it Blizzard ANZ Esports? I can't remember the Twitter handle off the top of my head now.
They all float around. But also, just remember, there's the Intercontinental Clash on May 12th and May 13th. So, yeah, May. So tune in for those. They will be brought to you by Skimmy and Vanny, the other wonderful duo. So they'll be taking care of that. And all the way in June, there's a mid-season brawl, which is going to be absolutely massive to watch. So most definitely tune into that. We could even potentially have an ANZ representative there. Fingers crossed. And there's also the best teams in the world, like Dignitas, KSV Black. There's so many good teams going over to the mid-season brawl. I'm really looking forward to that. And as we mentioned earlier, there's going to be the promotion and relegation games here in ANZ. More information about dates and how that's going to be run will be coming out over the coming few weeks, I guess, as more details are made available. Just as Isco said, just pay attention to the social medias, the Twitters. They'll usually post a lot of information as it comes available. So stick around over the next few months, as we're going to still have some more great content. But yeah, until the next split of HGC starts for us, there's not really much else.
Oh, there will be lots of community stuff going on.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. Anyway, guys, take it easy. Thank you all very much for you've all been fantastic. Give yourselves a pat on the back. And like they always say, we will see you guys in the Nexus.